Roissy Charles de Gaulle, June 2026. The expulsion of international Somali referee Omar Abdulkader Artan upon his arrival on American soil, despite holding a valid visa, a diplomatic passport, and official FIFA accreditation, marks the beginning of a major institutional crisis. This turn back, driven strictly by national and geopolitical criteria, transforms the 2026 World Cup into a testing ground for racial suspicion elevated to state policy.
I feel very good now. And I wanted to thank for FIFA for supporting me all the way, and Somali people also. So I'm very grateful for FIFA and for CAF also. So this is what I had to say.
When sport kneels before the border, brotherhood is nothing more than a marketing product. The analysis of this event proves that this is not a mere sporting crisis, but systemic scandal tied to a policy of administrative segregation.
So there's been one referee who has not been admitted. While I can't go into the details, what I can tell you high level is it was for very good reason. I support that decision. I was speaking directly with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Commissioner of CBP on Sunday. The days are blending together. A couple of days ago on this, and it was for very good reason that ultimately this referee did not get in the country.
An examination of the facts rules out the thesis of an isolated incident or a customs error. Discriminatory procedures are taking place at American borders with methodical consistency. At Raleigh Airport, the national delegation of Senegal, as well as that of Uzbekistan, underwent prolonged identity checks and searches directly on the tarmac, bypassing standard reception protocols. In Chicago, an Iranian official was subjected to a 7-hour interrogation in the immigration offices. The border is the mirror of our fears. When it arms itself against the other, it ceases to protect, it excludes. Faced with these blatant violations of the tournament's terms and conditions, FIFA maintains a passive neutrality. The silence of Zurich is louder than the engines of a Boeing. This ethical failure manifests itself in even more quantifiable terms through the logistical management of the Iranian selection. On a strictly sporting level, the conditions imposed on the Iranian team amount to structural penalization. Barred from an extended stay in the United States by the American administration, the delegation is forced to establish its base camp in Tijuana, Mexico, to play its group stage matches in Los Angeles and Seattle. The team must undertake cross-border round trips on the very day of the games. The Tijuana-Seattle trip represents over 4,000 kilometers in less than 24 hours, a major physical strain that distorts sporting equity compared to teams residing on American soil. This is a logistical strangulation dictated by political imperatives. It is the pure definition of institutional racism, when administrative rules are structured to make the success of a specific category of human beings impossible. There is no worse injustice than that which drapes itself in the legality of regulations. This situation raises the question of the balance of power between the international governing body and the host nation. FIFA's submission is explained by precise historical factors, notably the 2015 FBI raid in Zurich. Investigations into corruption and money laundering allowed American justice to gather compromising files on the leaders of world football. The attribution of the 2026 World Cup to the North American Triumvirate, funded to the tune of $11 billion by Washington, operates like a political compromise agreement. The justice of the powerful is often a revenge that knew how to bide its time. FIFA now finds itself unable to enforce its own anti-racism regulations for fear of judicial retaliation from the U.S. Department of Justice. The silence of FIFA is not neutrality, it is terror. Furthermore, this geopolitical submission highlights the breakdown of the international sports governance model established after the Second World War. By allowing a host state to filter official delegates and athletes based on ideological alignments, FIFA is abdicating its role as a universal regulator. The concept of extraterritoriality for major sporting events, which traditionally forces host nations to temporarily suspend their political vetoes for the duration of the tournament, has completely collapsed. The host country's domestic agenda now supersedes international sports law with total impunity, setting a dangerous precedent for future competitions. When sovereignty turns into an ideological sieve, the illusion of a neutral playing field shatters entirely. An analysis of media and political coverage reveals a profound asymmetry compared to previous editions. In 2022, the World Cup in Qatar sparked massive calls for boycotts and protest campaigns from Western selections regarding human rights. In 2026, faced with direct state discrimination and turnbacks based on nationality, boycott initiatives and protest symbols are entirely absent. Western indignation is a compass that loses its north as soon as it points west. This double standard materialized with the official presentation of FIFA's peace medal to Donald Trump, at the exact moment federal agencies were intensifying immigration controls on nationals from the global south. This is no longer diplomacy. It is cognitive dissonance. Faced with this inertia, traditional counterpowers prove ineffective. While a collective movement by top-tier players or the refereeing corps would possess the economic weight required to bend FIFA's position, athletes remain constrained by the risks of sporting and financial sanctions. The true destabilizing factor for the governing body is currently playing out in European courts. Michel Platini, definitively acquitted in March 2025 of the charges that had cleared his path to the FIFA presidency in favor of Gianni Infantino, has filed a lawsuit in Paris for traffic of influence and calumnious denunciation. Time is the ultimate courtroom. It always ends up exposing imposters. This procedure weakens Infantino's governance as the March elections approach. In conclusion, the 2026 World Cup institutionally validates a hierarchy of individuals based on the power of their passport. The tournament consecrates a model where the citizen of the North enjoys total freedom of movement to consume the spectacle, while the professional of the South is subject to systematic suspicion. A game that loses its innocence is no longer a sport. It is an entertainment industry to anesthetize consciences. The criteria for stadium access no longer stem from sporting merit, but from geopolitical segregation. The white lines of the pitch no longer serve only to delimit the game. They remind certain peoples that they are in a cage, and others that they own the stadium.